It's nice, isn't it? Nothing like watching water flow, following from the sounds around us. This is the Wilson River. It's one of 5 main rivers in the Tillamook County. There's the Miami, the Trask, the Tillamook, the Cochise, and the Wilson. But we are only going to be focusing on the Wilson today, and more importantly, its salmon run. Now the Wilson River is 33 miles long, starting from Devil's Lake and ending at Tillamook Bay, and we covered all 33 miles to show you what the salmon go through to spawn. Now yes, there have been many maps made for the Wilson, like hiking areas, trails, roads, signs, and of course, fishing. But what we made is a digital video map of the salmon run through this river. Welcome to the Wilson. It is the end of the fall Chinook salmon run, and the fishermen are trying to get the last fish for this season. After 1 to 7 years in the ocean, the adult salmon that have survived countless hazards from predators, ocean conditions, and commercial harvest now have to return home and lay their eggs. We start at the Bay Ocean Peninsula. It is the gap from the ocean to Tillamook Bay. The salmon make their way from the Pacific Ocean to the South Jetty, which is the opening of Tillamook Bay. The salmon will then go south of the bay to enter in their 5 rivers. Now, the salmon that will need to spawn at the Wilson will enter at Rock Point. Soon, those who haven't been caught will now have to fight up the Wilson. 8 miles up from Rock Point, we make our first stop at Mills Bridge Drift Boat Launch. This is a popular spot for fishermen due to its easy access to get on the Wilson. It's also a nice place to skip a few stones as well. Here, the salmon are now battling a heavy current going upriver. Swimming upstream, the salmon on its last few weeks of life will not eat, so it must conserve its energy if it wants to survive to lay its eggs. Now, I know what you're thinking, that these fish are a non-stop powerhouse of swimming. And, well, yes they are, but they also have a chance to rest. At their first pit stop near Minor Creek, about 7 miles upriver from Mills Bridge Drift Boat Launch, there are a natural barrier of rocks that are blocking a small amount of the current called eddies. These eddies can be sometimes full of salmon just hiding behind the current. Here they are able to rest before they swim up another 17 miles to be able to spawn. Driving up the river, we are going to check out the first spot where these salmon are going to begin to fertilize their eggs. 6 miles up by Negro Jack Creek in Alice's country house, this spot is notorious for its huge salmon crossing. In fact, some of the people came out to share some of their stories as we were shooting the area.
Man, the salmon are just filled. It is beautiful. Never seen anything like it.
Year, terrible year. You probably don't know about that. I do. That's what you're
Boy, it was a long time ago.
If you're wondering what they are talking about, here's a clip what this place looked like during the run 4 years ago. And here it is now. But don't worry, because the salmon runs have a 7-year cycle, and that means every year the numbers of salmon in the area can bounce up and down, because that's how we stocked it to save the numbers of salmon. And we started so late in the season to be shooting this that I was pretty sure we were not going to get any salmon on camera. So that's why I took a small video of the salmon head, because 1, I can show you proof that salmon are in the river, and 2, look how big that head is! That thing was probably 5 feet long at one point. I got my hopes up after seeing that salmon head because it was so fresh, but now we make our way up to the 21 mile point from the beach. I know it's insane how fast 21 miles looks like on camera. We're at the Wilson River Highway Forest State Park. This is the last big jump that these salmon have to get through to be able to get to the main spawn point. The current is very strong, but luckily some of the salmon can take a rest before the jump because there's a natural water hole before the fall. And speaking of falls, Here's a little montage of a few of them that we saw. Now, after the salmon climbs up the fall, it now has to swim upriver to spawn. About 8 miles upriver from the Wilson River Highway Forest State Park, the salmon will have an easier time swimming through these calm waters with little to no rapids. We're at Wolf Creek Road, right by Penhook Creek. This is where the salmon spawn. As we checked out the area and looked over the bridge below, to a surprise, there was in fact Chinook salmon. The reason behind that the salmon have white backs is because they have already laid their eggs, been fertilized, and now they just wait to die. They have no need of swimming upriver anymore, as they have completed their circle of life. These salmon have survived the elements and are now able to keep the population going in this river. We are now going to go up 2 miles upriver to show you the footbridge trailhead. Now, we have never been here before, so we're looking around trying to find where we can get down to the river.
I think it's this one, Bubba. Bubba, stop it.
As we make our descent down to the river from the bridge, we are hoping to see any more salmon in this section, because this is the last spot for the salmon to spawn. And we did see about 1 or 2 of them, but most of them have already died off. This part of the river has an amazing trail. It's really worth the walk if you want to see some very pretty parts of the Wilson. And that's it. That's the end of the salmon run of the Wilson. But before we go, we're going to go up river more to show you where Devil's Lake feeds into the Wilson River. About a mile up, we make it to Devil's Lake Fork Bridge. Under the bridge, there's a small stream coming from Devil's Lake that becomes the Wilson River. The trail we took down to get some shots of the stream is for mostly dirt bikes and ATVs. But if you want to come and visit me, I live right here too. And that's the end. The Wilson River begins here, but this is where we will end our story, just like the salmon. From the Pacific Ocean into the Tillamook Bay, going into the 5 rivers, swimming up the Wilson, and coming to the end at Devil's Lake. This is a place where tourists overlook to make their way over to Tillamook or Oceanside, driving over bridges filled with life and stories. The Wilson River is the largest and most accessible of the 5 rivers feeding into the Tillamook Bay. It receives the most fish and fishermen of any Tillamook area river. This is the Wilson River Salmon Run.